6 years after 1 October, the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, our community is once again grappling with a mass shooting, this time at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, a place where so many Nevadans have gone to school, held a job, or even cheered on the rebels. The shooting happened Wednesday around 11:45 a.m. Police say 67-year-old Anthony Polito entered Beam Hall, home of UNLV's Lee Business School, and shot and killed 3 UNLV faculty members. They were 64-year-old Cha John Jerry Chang, 39-year-old Patricia Navarro Velez, and 69-year-old Mayoko Takamaru. A fourth person was seriously injured, and the gunman was killed in a shootout with university police. At the time, UNLV's campus was packed with students and staff, but instead of preparing for finals next week, they found themselves barricading inside classrooms. The students we spoke to trying to utilize what they've learned from active shooter drills.
There was a lot of crying, a lot of panicking. Everyone was on the phone with their parents, their loved ones, their friends, other people on campus. It was a really upsetting environment to be a part of because we're all stuck there. There's nothing you can do. You just have to hope for the best and wait it out.
You have done plenty of drills.
Oh yeah, nothing can prepare you for that.
How long have you been doing those drills?
My entire life, since elementary school, so 18 years now. Yeah.
Finally have to implement that? What was that like?
It felt like everything I had been taught, everything I had known went out the window because your body is telling you to do something completely different. You go into panic mode and there's just nothing can prepare you for that, the feeling.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it did take this long for, me to be on campus between, my regular schooling and then graduate or, post-high school schooling. So yeah, it feels real, but not real at the same time. I don't really know how to describe it yet.
And how prepared did you feel for this?
Unfortunately, I felt pretty prepared. I've been doing these drills for years and years and years. The problem is that the people doing the shooting have also been doing these drills for years and years and years. So as much as I felt like I was prepared, I'm sure that the people, causing the shooting were also prepared. And so that is a weird feeling knowing that they know exactly what we're gonna do as we're trying to keep ourselves safe.
I knew sort of what to do, just from high school and everything that they taught back then. But I didn't at the same time just because you never think that's gonna happen. You just never know.
What do they teach you?
Get low, be quiet, shut the door, barricade the door, run, hide, fight, that's it.
I was just hoping to survive my second school shooting because there's at my old college there was one as well, and similar situation a couple buildings away.
On the scene of the shooting and following this story ever since have been Dana Gentry, reporter for Nevada Current, and Brett Forrest, reporter at News 3. Thank you both for joining us. Brett, you were not only on the scene after the shooting, but during the shooting. Why and what was your experience?
I was there on assignment for an entirely different story. It was kind of a lighthearted story speaking to seniors graduating in 2 weeks with the engineering program, doing their final presentations. I was speaking to some about an F1 presentation, and it was great to hear all the hard work they put in. It's their capstone projects, and then as we wrapped up our interviews, my photographer, Jay Aguilar, and I were trying to leave the building we're in when students began rushing in. And I said, "What's going on?" And they started saying, "Shooter, shooter, there's an active shooter." And as a journalist, my first instinct was we should maybe go check it out. And they just said, no, we have to shelter in place. And so we immediately, there were probably 2 or 3 dozen students and then several faculty members. And then my photographer and myself, we immediately had to shut and lock the doors. And we were in a wide open room, plenty of windows. And these students, as we just heard, a lot of training growing up, unfortunately, of what to do. So we realized the room we were in was not a good room. And we had to push further back, and we actually ended up in UNLV president's office and library. And we had to hunker down there, and we ended up sheltering in place for 4 hours. And it was just impressive in a sad way of just how these students immediately went into action, knowing what to do, crouching down, trying to stay away from the windows. There's a kitchen attached to where we were. They immediately blocked all the doors with freezers, carts, trash cans, whatever they could find. The students did. And it was frightening because once I realized it was a real deal, I started shaking a bit because I'd never been in that situation before. and I didn't quite know what to do. I graduated high school in 2007, so mass shootings weren't unknown to me, especially with Columbine. I'm from Colorado, but I wasn't sure what to do. So, looking back, I'm thankful I was with these students who acted so quickly, but also sad that they have to know how to treat a situation like that.
Dana, you were a UNLV student yourself at one time. You told me off camera that 2 of your nieces were on campus at the time of the shooting. What were their experiences?
Very much like what Brett said. My niece Riley took command and told everybody to barricade the door and to stand away from the window next to a wall. And you have to realize these kids have been brought up with these drills. You pray they will never have to use them in a real situation, but they are prepared in a way that my generation, I graduated 30 years before Brett, so school shootings were just not something that we ever thought about, but it was terrifying.
How are your nieces doing?
They're fine. I mean, one is very stoic, and that's of concern to me, but I told her it's okay not to be okay in a situation like this. This is not normal. This is not something you should ever have to encounter.
And we're going to be talking more about that ahead, but 3 victims in this shooting who have passed away. We're taping this Friday morning, and we recently learned the name of the 3rd victim, Nyoko Takamaru. Brett, what do we know about these victims?
They're all faculty members at UNLV, and they were, I believe, on the 4th floor of Beam Hall. The investigation's ongoing about how the shooting started, who was targeted. I don't know if these 3 were specifically targeted, but it's known that the shooter had a list. He was disgruntled with UNLV not hiring him, and it seemed he went to that specific location to target these faculty members. And the 3 victims, they were all professors. One was a mother of 4, I believe, and so it's just tragic that they now don't have their mother. And the other 2 victims, you mentioned the name, just released, head of their Japanese Studies department, I believe. And so, I mean, it's reason to say that possibly her family's in Japan, and that's possibly why it took so long to notify her next of kin.
Right.
And it's just, I can't imagine what any of them are going through, and it's just tragic that they were just going to work, doing their job.
As you mentioned, we don't know whether this shooter was targeting them specifically. What do we know about
yesterday,
him?
the sheriff did say that the people who were killed were not on the target list.
Huh.
I believe he said 2 were discovered on the 3rd floor, 1 on the 4th floor, and they believe the victim who did not die, but his condition has been downgraded, was on the 5th floor. I think, unfortunately, people in our business and perhaps the general public have become somewhat inured to this, and my first reaction, and it's a horrible reaction, was thank God it was just 3 people, just 3 people, whereas 20 years ago, a shooting at UNLV that killed 3 people would have been out of the question, out of the realm of possibility. So I think we have to remember that to the families of the 3 people, even though it wasn't a bigger tragedy, it's a humongous tragedy to those people.
That target list, where was it discovered and how
On his body, from what I understand. I was a little confused yesterday. I thought it was in the apartment, but today I read that it was on his body.
And how many people on it? Numerous, correct?
Numerous, both at UNLV and his former university, East Carolina University, which is in North Carolina. They also discovered a type of last will and testament in his apartment. I don't believe they've released what was detailed in that as well.
But not a motive per se, or are we?
Well, I don't think, the sheriff stopped short of calling it a motive, but he did say that the man had applied to numerous institutions in Nevada, higher education institutions, and had been denied employment. And the fact that he had a target list of university professionals and had sent 22 letters to higher education professionals here and at his former place of business, I think you can assume that that had something to do with it.
And that was at his Henderson apartment where that last will and testament was found. Police also said an eviction notice was on the door, implying he was having some financial struggles. Those envelopes that you bring up, what happened with those?
So how the process works, my understanding, they work with the postal inspectors and they try to capture these envelopes before they get delivered. There's no return address. They did at least recover one and tested a white substance that they found inside, which people fear could be fentanyl these days, something to cause a reaction or death of whoever opens it. And the police released a statement that they found it was no harmful substance. But they are warning people if they receive an unknown letter with no return address, especially if you're in one of these academic institutions, to be wary of opening them.
All right, and in regards to the police response to this shooting, Adam Garcia of UNLV Police spoke about that. Let's listen to him first, and then I'll have you respond.
The first officer on the scene of the incident was there within 78 seconds. Additional arriving units from Metro and UPD then entered Beam Hall, and as you saw in the video, 2 University Police detectives then confronted the suspect and engaged in a gun battle which neutralized the threat. These 2 detectives are heroes. They risked their lives in order to save countless others, and as the sheriff pointed out, what could have been a bloodbath.
Dana, with the details that police have provided, could this have been a lot worse?
I think it could, but we still don't know. You know, the sheriff was adamant to say that the police entered the building without hesitation, because I think there was so much criticism after the 1 October shooting massacre on the Strip about the police hanging out in the hall.
And Uvalde.
And, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Right, and you know, but the thing is, as Adam Garcia said, the police entered. They responded in 78 seconds, so we're looking at about 11:45 and seconds, and then the suspect exited at 11:55. So in those 10 minutes, I think we need to find out as much as we can about what happened and who was searching and how the suspect evaded those people in those 10 minutes. But I completely agree, those campus police who took down the suspect are heroes. And you know, the sheriff suggested that he was headed for the student union. I'm not sure, you know, because he had a target list, it's hard to say.
He was carrying several magazines though, and so that makes me worry about how much worse it could have been.
So you're looking to find out exactly what happened inside that building, and then to the time when he exited, which is when he was shot, was outside.
Yeah, I don't think they have any cameras inside the building as part of the problem, so they're asking now for anyone who has videos or any information to come forward.
Okay, and Brett, what are you still looking to find out?
I would like to know about this target list, this hit list that police were saying the shooter had, who was on it. My assumption is more faculty members or specific faculty members, but it would be, I'm interested to learn what his intentions were walking into that business school on Wednesday. Just who was he looking for specifically?
All right, Brett Forrest, you will be attending President Joe Biden's press conference later today. As I said, we're taping this Friday morning, so watch his coverage on Channel 3 or news3lv.com. And Dana Gentry, your award-winning reporting can be found at nevadacurrent.com. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.